Hello everyone, I hope you are doing great. So, today we are back with our fourth episode, which is related to annotations. Earlier, I was thinking that before this fourth episode, I will have my final uh, data model ready, but then of late, I thought uh, it makes sense to first cover annotations and then we'll make our data model of purchase order, because then we'll be able to use the different things of annotations, what are annotations, and will be able to use them along with other associations, joins, and other concept which we understood. So before I actually go in directly into annotations, because this is something which has actually it took me a lot of time to me to actually understand what it is, and trust me, many people are using it and still they don't have the clear idea. I'm not saying everyone, but many of them. I have been through that situation and still I am in that, right? So you keep learning and then you start exploring. So maybe let me just explain this first, that what annotation is, maybe by some drawings, and then it will start making more sense to you, and then we will have a look into the system of what it is, right? So let's see that what we see right now is that in our uh, purchase order item we have amount as field, currency as field, quantities. These are different fields. There are different other fields, right? But like for example, in our data dictionary we were having data elements and domains. Data element was, we were able to enhance its description and everything, right? So how do you add meaning to it? For example, if you remember, when you were uh, defining any uh, amount field, then you have to tell the table or the structure that which is the currency field it has to refer. So those kind of links, if you see right now, are missing, right? Or you can, where can you change the description of these fields, right? So those different things are missing, right? So that is where annotation comes in. It adds value, it adds more descriptions, it adds many more things to the CDS. Okay, so what annotation does in a very raw form is, I'll say it adds, oh, it's too big. One second, let me, yeah. So what annotation does is it adds value to the CDS. Now this value is what we call it as metadata, right? So for example, you want to have different description, right? So for description you will have some annotation. For example, you want to have tell that, okay, this amount is related to this currency. So for currency you will have different annotation. For let's say uh, purchase order quantity, right? For quantity you have different one, right? And for example, you want to describe the properties of the table, right? For example, whether it is a transparent table or what, you can have properties of view or table, whatever, right? And then for example, you also want to define how these each field of CDS, each element of these CDS will look on the front end. For example, which field will act as filter, right? Which field will be part of list, which will be part of object page, right? Or then basically there are, what I mean to say is, an annotation is something which enhances the value. Okay, now there are annotations like, for example, you have defined your model, your CDS. Now based on it, automatically your OData services will get generated, right? And that annotation is normally is OData, right? So what it does is it automatically reads your CDS, whatever UI descriptions and all you have put in, and then there is once you activate your CDS, there is a template generator which runs in the backend and it creates your OData services automatically, right? So that's the power of annotations. They add value. They enhances the metadata of this CDS, and the same metadata is used by Fiori Elements app, and they automatically, based on the whatever we have defined, they generate the front end app. So it's like a click, and it doesn't take much more time. So at a very high level, let's just think that annotation is something which has which adds value to existing CDS elements. These value can be in terms of from how the field will look on front end, how whether you will have some calculations and all. Now maybe let me just open this view now, and let's have a bit of a better detail, right? We'll look at a bit of a deep into now annotations which we haven't done. So any annotation you have to use, it has to start with @ right? So now this, let's just look at this one, nothing else, right? This annotation, end user text dot label. Now for me, when I started, I didn't know which, for example, for me it was like, how do you decide that end user text will have label, right? How do you decide whether access control will have this, right? Normally if you want to use fields of any work area, you go and you check its type, and then you see that okay, these fields are available. But I was like, how come people know that in each annotation which all options are available and what they do? And normally I was like, maybe they Google it, right? That's what we do, right? But that's not the part of the story. The part of the story begins now. So basically, let's just simply, and secondly, why this end user text is defined here? Can it be defined inside also? Can it be defined here also? You know, what places it can be defined, I never knew. So slowly we understood, right? And so let me show you something and how it works. So let's just concentrate on the first annotations. What it is doing is very clear from the name. It is adding the text, right? That okay, this is the text, right? And if I look at this SQL view also, which is created in the back end, I hope it loads fast. So it basically copies the short description. So somehow when I activate this, there's a program, and most probably in a web program, yes, which gets triggered, which creates this view along with reads the annotation, parses it, and update it, right? But how do I know that this will have this annotations, right? So what the most simplest way I'll do is, if you want to know something, you need to press F3 once you are on end user text, right? So now you are inside that annotations, right? I want to see what all exists in it. Now this is where things get very interesting, and you need to stay focused and understand. So now this is where it starts, annotations. Which one? End user text. Okay. Now this is where it is starting making sense. So first field is label. So this is from this place, the label is one of the field, and in case you want to access it, you need to say it's like a structure. If you look at it, right? End user text, it contains label. It also has quick info, right? And it also has heading. So not only this, right? It has heading, it has quick info, it has label, and it's like a structure. It has its length also defined, right? Important thing. When I was saying that, how do I know that this label can be put in here or where, right? So this is where what decides. So you can use label in entity, parameter, element, extending view, role, aspect, PFCG. There are a number of things you can use it, right? And for example, if you have to use quick info, it can only be used in element, it can only be used in parameter if we have any, and it can be used in annotate. And this heading is a simple type. Then it says its max length is 37. Then there is another extension is usage is allowed or true. If it is false, then there is no extension allowed, right? So if you look at this is nothing but a clear cut, a structure which defines how what all will be part of this annotation, right? Now maybe if let's look at the rate scope. I'm just trying to, and I press F3. Now you see this scope, right? And scope can have these values, right? When you use them against in the square brackets, it's like an array, right? If you remember JavaScript, the array, right? And where are these values defined? Now, yes. So annotation scope, it's an array of string 20. What values it can contain? Entity, right? And if I just scroll here, in front of define for all entity types, right? Define view you can use, table function you can use, extend view. So that's how you can use. And this if you look at it, it's like a domain with fixed value, annum, right? There will be a set of fixed values where it can be used. Okay, so now we understand that, okay, that description is coming from here, right? And let's look at another one, which is a big one, ABAP catalog SQL view name, right? So simply you go there, click on F3, and you have it. And then let me split it. So now ABAP catalog, okay, very good. Scope, this, okay, you look at this, its scope is view. It can be at a view level, it cannot be at any other level. Then it has different other annotations, then it defines annotations. So you see this buffering, right? So first is buffering. Buffering has this, it can have inside buffering, it can have status. Status is nothing but an annum, whether buffering is allowed. You remember when you activate database tables also, you have buffering allowed, active, switched off. Type is single, generic, what kind of a buffering you want, what are the key fields, right? And similarly, if I just search SQL view name, so I'm just trying to find SQL view name, you have this SQL view name. And from where it is coming that it should be of less than 16 characters, it is from there. And then you have its other fields, right? Then for example, preserve key, compiler, or different things, right? So that's how it defines the annotations, right? Now for example, in this case, it is using the same annotation. Now this thing, normally it is called as domain, and this is sub annotation, or you can it's based on whatever you feel comfortable with. You can call it as an annotation, you can call it as a sub annotations, but normally this is annotation, and then these are sub annotations and domain. This is domain. So now instead of using this 3 times and all, I can write it in a very short way also. How I can write is, I can have it like this, right? Because these all belong to the same annotations. So now I can define it in this way also. So it means ABAP catalog SQL, and then I'm trying to use its 3 fields, and if I just activate it, it will work. I hope so. So it's like a structure, right? And when I click on this, I also showed you the arrays also of how it works. This is enum, and then you can give an array in square brackets, and then inside square brackets you can have structures also, like an object, the JavaScript one. So anyways, so just to make you understand, so we have different annotations. Now we came to know that, okay, we can use this annotation, right? At what level? Let's see once more. This annotation label can be used at entity, parameter, element also. So that means you can define your own description for this, right? For example, you can say purchase order can be my purchase order, right? Now how do I define it? I say at the rate, right? Let's bring in one more entity. So for example, let's generate the OData service for it, so that I can show it to you in metadata how it looks like, that how when your CDS OData services will be consumed by Fiori elements, how it will look. So let's say the moment you press at the rate, you will see automatically there are different annotations which come, and I'm going to use OData one, right? So mine is OData dot publish true, right? So as soon as I activate it, we will see there is a service which gets created. But before that, let's add certain more labels. For example, I want purchase order to be my purchase order item, right? And material to be because if I will not define it, it will take it from data element, right? Or we'll look into propagation also, that if for example based on this CDS view we create something else, how this labels will behave. For example, if I define a new annotation, will I get overwritten or what? We'll look at that. So I say purchase order material, right? And then I say my purchase quantity, and this is quantity unit. So far I think let it remain this much only, and if I just say activate, so this is activated. Let me open our SAP console now. Not here, maybe I can go from here. Go to /n services, and I'll go to add service, and ours there will be a service by the name, it will start with ZIPI item. So we'll just sort it, and you see this automatically from CDS it has generated this. And if I just say this, and I need to put in a package, and the package is ZCDS4 ABAP, and I just generate it. It says okay, I'm all okay, let it run. You see the service is created and its metadata was loaded. So now if let me hide this, and if I just go back, and if I just sort it, I shall see our ZI1, here it is. And if I just say gateway client, I'm just trying to test it, right? And okay, so the client opens up in a separate window. Okay, so now I just execute it, F8. So it brings in that okay, there is this item, there is this item. Okay, let me add a metadata to it. So how do we add it? Is all we need to use is $metadata. Oh, I missed a slash here. I say execute. Yeah, so I have opened it in a browser, and now this is where we will have a look. So let's see this. So we have, it has automatically created an entity based on our PO item number, right? So now this is name, right? And the key field is PO number, PO item. We saw the same, right? Maybe I can open this and this. No, let me keep it big, otherwise it will get tough for you to read. So maybe let me increase the size. So now the entity name is this. This is how metadata looks like, right? This is where you will see the magic of annotations and all. So now you have the key fields, the same one, PO number, then it says its type, length. This length, where it is coming from, it is coming from data element domain 1, right? Format uppercase. Now this, you look at this, it has replaced this with my purchase order, my purchase order item, my purchase material, right? So we can see that our annotations for labels is taking impact, right? It's just modifying the labels also, right? I think logically now it makes sense that we linked the amount with the currency. So how it will help is that, let me get this big, that if you are going to create a Fiori Elements app based on it, then this annotation will provide the linkage that okay, this is this currency, this amount is related to this currency, and based on this currency, how I have to display it in Fiori Elements app. So maybe let's first go to then our system, and I will, for this we have an entity, the domain name or annotation name semantics, and maybe what I will do is let me bring in everything just to show you. So we don't need telephone, we don't need email, we don't need name, we don't need address. We need something related to amount, where I can say that okay, this is my currency amount and that is my currency field, right? So system, no, calendar, nothing, fiscal, no, geolocation. There are too many things in semantics, right? And yeah, here you see, so you have semantics here, right? And then you have for amount, right? And then you also see there is a currency code by default which is true, right? So as of now, for this field we want to just say that this is a semantics for amount, right? And then we can basically mention about that okay, which is the currency field. Okay, so what I will do is I will just remove this unwanted stuff, just okay, this is currency code. Okay, yes, I will remove this, right? And that's where we will provide that okay, for this field WRBTR, the currency is this. Okay, and so I'll just press save, and then now okay, I have denoted this as that this is my related currency field, but I have not enabled that field which is where's as currency. So how do you do it is you say again the same @semantics dot currency code, right? This was the one which we had, colon true, right? So now what you are telling the system is that okay, semantics amount, right, is currency code. This field is an amount whose currency code is where's, and this is the where's, this is where's is currency code default true, and by default it is true. So you can also, it is optional, you can use it like this also. Okay, so in case, and what are the default values, how do you check? So you click here, maybe let me hide this, not this, let me hide this and this both. So you click here, press F3, it will open its details, right? And if we search here for currency code, right, it refers to an element, very clear, right? And we are searching for another currency code because this is for the first element amount, but I want to search for the another one. Oh no, I don't want to change it, this one, right? And what is the scope of it? Element, that's what we have done, we have used it at element level. And what is the default value? True. Okay, so this I believe is done. So what I will do right now is I will activate it, and hopefully I don't see any error. Activation done. We will open our request and say execute, right? And now if you look at here, um, mm, let me open it in a file. So I open this new file and let's see what is there. So WRBTR, this unit is where, right? And then this currency is the field which it is referring to. Then let's refer the old file. There also you will see where, because by default it is picking from that relationship, right? So in order to observe this change, what we'll do is as follow, that maybe instead of using this wheres, I'll say this is not my currency key, right? What I will say is maybe my currency key is this one, currency description, right? And if this is my this, then I will choose currency code as currency description. That okay. For amount, currency description is the one where you will get everything. Let's try to activate it. So we have some error. Let's look at that. It says in case you want to refer, let me make it a bit bigger. So in case you want to refer something as a reference field, currency description, it shall have a type as unit and key. Okay. So because we have not used any type here, right? We have just used a case statement. So maybe let me also use a cast, right? And then it will be easy. But since we want it to be currency key, so I will say BAP dot CUKY, right? So now we are saying this is our currency and you should refer to this. Okay, so I will just activate it. I hope it works then now. It is activated. Let me hide this. I go to again to our this and I say execute. Now let's look at currency. So this is our currency field, right? Now currency, this is our amount, and amount now unit refers to which one? Currency description, right? So it will always now refer to this field to get what currency it is. It is 100 amount of what, euro, INR, whatever, right? So till now what we have seen is what are annotations, what are elements, what is scope, and how do we add annotations, and how do we basically kind of create annotations, right? Create in the sense we use them. Now just to reiterate that we have also used OData.publish, the framework, because of the framework. Once I say OData.publish, the OData services are also generated automatically. So in some cases you will see new objects, classes being created. In some cases it is just they are adding to the semantics, right? So it depends on what kind of annotation you are trying to use. So moving further, I think now there are two important things which are left, but let's first try to understand that what if I create a view on top of it, and in those views I define some new annotations, right, for the same field, right? How will these annotations behave, right? So no other better way than to actually start creating one. So let me go to, could have gone directly, right? But anyway, so it's like new data definition. I will say ZI propagation, right? Because we want to see how does these annotation propagate from parent to child, right? So I'll just say finish, and I'll close this also to make it better. Split view for easy viewing, and we will have it something like select from this source, right? And if I just press control space, it will say insert elements all. I will use all elements, right? We are using all elements, no annotations, nothing, right? And let's also publish our OData so as that we can observe the difference, right? So I'm just pressing save and activating things, and let's see what happens, right? So it is activating. We'll need to activate the service also, let's not forget that, right? It is still doing it. Meanwhile, I go to add met service, and then once it is activated, then we will try to fetch it. It's taking some time, let's just wait. Where is the problem? Warning is okay. If I just it is syntax check and all, local get services, let's see whether we have it or not. And if I just say do we see Jedi propagation CDS already generated? All I need to do is select it, add selected service, package is our CDS ABAP, and it should have come by default. Okay, hold on, let's just go back and once again check whether it is activated or not. Activated. Okay, so I go to add service, local get service, I sort it down, propagation CDS, add selected service. You see now, because that time I was in a hurry, but now it is automatically come. So I'll say continue. Okay. Okay, so our service is created. Very good. So I'll just say go back and just sort it. Since it is Jedi propagate service, this one propagation, I will just call the gateway client. Okay, and let's look at that. So we see the metadata, and now we have not defined anything here. In here nothing, right? But let's see what metadata it shows. So if I just say execute, and now you see this, my purchase quantity, right? My purchase material, my purchase order item, my purchase order, even amount is also linked to currency description, right? So it automatically inherits from the parent one, right? So let's say I want to modify it. For example, I don't want this. I would say that call this as my purchase order, not call it as mine purchase order, right? And I press save and activate both. So let's see what changes does it bring. Does it override or does it consider the parent only? I don't know, right? So I go back, I say execute again, and now you will see there is a change. It says mine purchase order, right? So kind of it automatically inherits from the base, right, from the parent. But if you want, you can overwrite it in the derived CDS view also, right? And maybe what we can do is let's there, because in SAP ABAP there are always side cases where you don't want, where the system will behave in a different way, and maybe let's try to see how does it behave in that case, right? For example, quantity, we have purchase material, we have defined it as my purchase material, right? So let's try to cast this thing, right? Cast material, right? And as abap.char, maybe 2 characters, right? And comma, and then comma, right? So I'm just saying that whatever is the length of this, let's see what is the current length. The current length of material is where is material, my purchase material, it is 40 max length. I'm saying it cast it to only 2 characters and activating it. Let it activation field, alias name, yeah, cast is also within alias, right, as material. I forgot that. And I say activate. It is done. So what if I now go to our metadata, I execute again, and let's see what does it brings. So if you now look at quantity, my parent labels were gone, right? It was this was my material, right? That is gone and length is reduced. So that means when you used casting, right, when you cast some element, then it does not consider the parent one, but it consider it locally. Now you need to add your own annotations here, right? Maybe what I'll do is, let me remove this, right, and activate it. The column Metner is known as material. Okay, material is known. So now I will say activate, and we shall see it again coming back. So it will inherit from the parent, right? So now table quantity, my purchase material. This material and quantity I always get confused. So you see this is back, right? So we understand that, okay, if you create a view based on certain view, it inherits those properties, but you can override them using casting or local annotation. And there is another annotation which is at the rate metadata, right? And which you say metadata ignore propagations annotations too, that we don't want to look at annotations. So basically we don't want to inherit annotations. So that's what it does. So maybe let me just activate it. I think it makes sense that we spend some time here also. Let me close this. This I don't need. So let me just open this doing an F3 just to look at how does metadata is defined, right? Because going and looking into the details is always where it matters, right? So the scope is at entity level, this annotation, that's why I have to define it at header level. This is an entity or view, right? So so this entities, because the same name is used to create entities. When you generate this, you publish, right? So that's why it's at header level. And then it says allow extension, boolean default by default is true. If I can remove this, it just will mean it is true, right? And we also have other this one, ignore propagated extension, which we are using, right? And you can see the comment define that propagated inherited annotations are ignored for the annotated entity, right? So then you have others also, for example layer, which has an enum, right? So you can explore now. It is very pretty straightforward. Now let me just activate it. I don't know whether I forgot or what. It is activated, and if I now again go to our client and if I look at now the metadata, I will not expect to see my document and all. Mine purchase order is okay because we have defined it locally, right? But for others it is item, material, quantity, right? So that's how normally you kind of stop the annotations from flowing from parent to child views, right? So I think now let me just try to recap what we have done so far. we started with basic annotations. We explained what are annotation. We understood that okay, it can be like a structure, it can be like an array, and every annotation has a scope. And then we started using basic annotations for currency and all, right? And then we started modifying the labels, and now from there we said okay, we know how to use annotations. Now what if we create another view on top of annotations? So then we understood how does one annotation flow from parent to children, and how there are exceptional cases. There will be many others also. This is based on my experience which I've seen. So you can, the more, it's basically the more you search, the more situation you are get into, the more you learn, right? So that's how we understand now this. So let's now look at one more topic. So if we have to add annotations here, this can become bit clumsy, right? And we are always supposed to have our code also organized, right, and all that stuff. So that's where we come to the next topic, which is about metadata extensions, right? So what metadata extensions does is they allow us to add these annotations in a separate file, number one. Plus they have their own, they are like, you can have multiple annotations file for a same CDS, right? Then how will you decide that what annotations will be used when we are kind of running the or consuming those services? Those will be decided based on what layer that extension is at. Okay, we'll look at this layer. Let me first try to walk you through this creation, and then you will understand it. So for example, if you need to create a metadata extension, all you need to do is do a right click, new, and this time we'll choose metadata extension, and my name is jet meta ext, let's call it as that, and I say next. Next. Now you can use this extension to annotate a view with parameters, entity with parameters. So in our case, what we are trying to do is that this propagation view, we will try to annotate it with a separate file, not by adding it here. Okay, so I'll say annotate view, and I say finish. And if you will notice here, there's a new tab which has come, metadata extension. Okay, so now this view name which we want to annotate, Jedi propagations. Okay, so I go here, I say we want to annotate it, right? There is some error coming. What is this error? It says I cannot annotate Jedi propagations because it is not a CDS entity. It is, first of all, what layer it is. 1 second. Oh, sorry, I used an SQL view. So let me try using, so we want to annotate view this, right? Now I see two more errors. One is for fields I want to mention. For example, what we will do is that, okay, we have added an end user text for purchase order here for PONO. Let's try to add it for PO item. Okay, so I go here and I remove this. Okay, and you need to keep and I call it as mine purchase order item, right? And I say just save and shift P1, shift F1. Yeah, and I've just saved it, and you need to keep a close eye that it's a semicolon by which it ends, right? I am saying you annotate this view, this field with this, but still I'm getting an error. What is the error? It says onum starting with this. Now, for example, I don't know what this metadata layer is, right? I've already opened this metadata here. So layer has 5-6 values: core, localization, industry, partner, customer. That's how you can classify what kind it is. Normally for our own custom data model we use core, and in case you are trying to extend some existing standard or build on top of it, then accordingly you can choose localization, industry, partner, or whatever you feel like. And they have a priority that, okay, if there are 3 different annotations, which one is in core, localization, other is in industry, which will be like be chosen. So it's like it is in the same order. So customer highest one, partner beneath, industry, then localization, core. For our case, since we are using a custom one, so I'll just say it's a core one. Okay. Now core annotations. Okay, I just say save, and let me check my another is activated. Active this view. This is already activated. Let me try to activate this now. We have some errors, so let's look at this error. Annotation metadata dot allow extension missing in the parent one. Okay. Oh, yeah, I know. So basically, in case you want this view to be annotated by external file, you need to use this one, allow extension, right? So which will actually, it is allowed to create, it will metadata extensions for the annotated entity. So what we'll do is, I'll just say metadata allow extension true, and I will just activate it. Activated, and now let me try activating it again, and it is activated, right? And now this is this we have run earlier, that okay, for propagation it is coming at mine purchase order, but item is still item. Let me run it again, and let's see what it comes now. So you see this, so now it becomes mine purchase order item. So that is how basically these metadata extensions work, and they actually give modularity along with give those layers to your annotations and all. So I think we understood fair bit about the annotations in this episode, where we started from basic to understanding types, to extensions, to propagations, to how it looks like, how do you check in extensions, right? So I hope it is clear, and we are, I think, now pretty much ready to start building our model. In one of the comment in our previous video was that why we are not using SAP provided S-Flight or the EPM model. So if just to answer that once again, my intention here is that because everyone using different systems, for example in ABAP trial or this one which we are using, I don't know whether we have EPM there. We do have flights, EPM I'm not sure, plus some people are doing it on S4HANA system, some are working on a different patch level. So in order to stay consistent, I wanted to start with a very basic and custom approach, which is like you create your own tables. For example, people in S4HANA who are new there, they might have used a defined table statement, they might have learned something new, and people or community in a different system might have used a different way. So it's just that because this custom one help us in everyone in starting from grassroots and then slowly building on top of it. Otherwise, yes, you are right, and that was a great suggestion. In fact, we can refer those CDS views, already created one, to see how does different CDS views work, right? So I think I'm done with this, and in our next episode we would be try to see how we can now create a Fiori Elements app on top of it. Okay, and we will try to use a propagation one, a basic one, and we'll quickly try to create a Fiori Elements app, and then as a list one, and then on top of it we will try to add annotations and stuff, right? Thank you. Thanks everyone for watching, and stay safe, keep learning, keep sharing, do provide your feedback. Thank you.